What's up, YouTube? Just before the video gets started, I want to mention some things that I've learned along the way with the MDX so that you don't repeat the same mistakes that we made, and also so that you have an idea of what you're getting into. So first, I just want to talk about the MDX that we worked with. Was it 2007 or 8? I don't remember, but 2007, 2008. So it seems that from 2007 to about 2009, the MDX internal electronics are the same. From there on, they have changed, I believe. I can't confirm that 100%. I have not been inside a vehicle. The diagrams seem to be a little similar, kind of like the same with the TLs. But again, this is directly speaking to a 2007, 2008, 2009. So both of those have several options. I mean, all three of those models have several options. You have just your standard radio, like this one. So you have this standard radio, you have the one with navigation that has the knob, and then when you have navigation, sometimes you have rear entertainment. Like the car you're gonna see in the video had navigation. So that was a whole mess to try to get an aftermarket radio in that car. We did it, but it took a lot to do, and I'll show you why. So here, for my subscribers, Acura TL fans, don't worry, man, I'm not gonna leave you hanging. I know you're watching this video wondering why did I click this video, and this is why. So change the sub in your Acura TL from the factory sub. The holes don't line up. You're gonna need an adapter plate. We've actually created one. This is part of our base upgrade package that we're putting together. Let me show you how that gets made. So here's our little 3D printer printing out our second prototype. But yeah, guys, these will be available in our store, and I'll even put the 3D print file online. So if you have a 3D printer, you can get one done yourself. It's rather a basic shape. It's just you got to make sure the thickness is right and that you have proper tapering around the edges so that the screws sit where they're supposed to. But yeah, guys, I wasn't gonna leave y'all hanging. I'm still working on this base upgrade package, so that's coming soon, don't worry. Okay, so here we have the remnants of a amplifier that's inside of a vehicle with navigation, and here's one without navigation. So this connection on both, you can see is removed here, but on both is the same, trust me, but it is pinned differently. So on here, certain pins aren't used. When it's on the amplifier, when you have navigation, all the pins are used, and they're pinned differently, meaning each pin relates to a different speaker. So here's your input, here's your input. When you have a navigation Acura MDX, you have different inputs, and those inputs actually limit what you can do, because a standard 5-channel amp that this is easily replaceable. Not easily, but it is replaceable without much effort, and you can continue to use your factory radio or replace the radio and continue to use the factory amp. When you have navigation, the navigation-based radio sends commands over a serial line to this amp to tell it to turn up the volume, turn down the volume, fader left and right, etc. So what will end up happening is you will hook up your aftermarket radio, it'll turn on, you'll get some volume, but it'll never get fully loud. And the reason for that is because there is no communication to here. You can set the volume on max when this radio is connected, not cut the power to the amp, and then the amp will remember to always go on volume, to go on high volume, but it will not remember that after a key start. So it's very annoying to continue to use this. So what you can do, something we're working on, is a conversion harness that will allow you to use the standard non-navigation amp in your navigation car. But that's still very clunky and in the works. Right now, if you have navigation, I don't recommend replacing your radio. There's not a good solution out yet that's easy to install. If you're very handy yourself, or if you go to a shop, they can actually merge these two and make a bypass harness. Just know that when you make that bypass, that's something we're working on as well, but when you make that bypass, one of the tricky things is this enclosure is out of a car with navigation, so your subwoofer isn't directly hooked up. There's actually another piece of hardware that gets signal, and it is told to turn on, that relays through this amp. It's just a 12-volt signal, so you can relay it back to this and basically bypass this and still power your sub, but it is tricky to do, and you will have to wire your speakers a certain way to retain all of them. So it's not something that's plug and play or very friendly for the DIYer. You kind of really have to know what you're doing with the audio there to make sure you get it all to work. So this video is really geared at someone who has the non-navigation. You have this radio, you have this amp, this is directly tied to this amp, and then your speakers and your doors all look like this. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I know it makes the video a little bit longer, and you're not getting to the information you're looking for right away, but I just wanted to cover that because it's very important, because someone will try to replace their radio, end up with low sound, and then figure out they just dumped $300 and they have to go deeper in the hole to find a solution, or if not, put everything back, and now they have to resell or return that stuff. So if you have a Acura MDX without navigation, we have the harnesses in our store for you to make, you know, we have the DIY kit, we have the DIY combo, then we have a plug and play harness, and then we'll have eventually a complete kit with the dash kit and everything. But just know that right now, as things are, non-navigation is the easiest to replace a radio. If you have navigation, it's going to be a lot more trickier. Also guys, the last thing that's really important that you need to know is that this radio will not provide you an illumination trigger for your aftermarket radio. So if we look at the connections that are back on this radio, the ones that you're going to interface with to replace your radio are really this guy and this guy. So both of these connections don't have illumination in them. So to tap illumination and get your radio to dim when you switch the light, you're gonna have to tap this guy up here. I'm not sure that the correct wire off the top of my head, but I don't recommend doing that. It makes it a little clunkier to install. What I recommend doing is buying a JVC or Kenwood radio or an Alpine radio. There's the ones that seem, and some Android radios have the technology too, where they have a kind of a sensor in the front and they auto dim. It's a little annoying. You could set it to the clock as well, but just if you wire tap that, is not an easy, like, it's not hard to do, it's just annoying to do, and it doesn't feel like a clean installation. So just look for one of those radios instead. They're decent radios, they have good deals on them from time to time, and you can easily wire it up, and it's less wires for you to put together. But all right guys, without me talking anymore, let's get into the video. You can see kind of what we did with this MDX. It was a lapse over maybe 2 or 3 weeks because we were still figuring all this stuff that I just told you out, and the customer was really patient. He was a friend of ours, so that really helped. But all right guys, I'll let the video play. What's up YouTube? It's Orlando with Mobile Max Car Audio, and I'm back with another video. Today we have a 2008 Acura MDX. I know this is a car a lot of people have been waiting for, so I can't wait to get to work on it. I'm sorry for all the noise. I'm on the main street. I'm at a shop actually doing this for a customer. So let me just show you the car quick. Alright, so this still has all factory options. They haven't touched the car yet, so we still have the factory navigation. We're gonna be popping this panel off, that panel off, getting all this out, and then that screen's gonna stay there, which is a little ugly, but it is what it is. I'm by myself, that's why I'm not wearing a mask for all this crazy madness, and I do plan to disinfect the car when I'm done. That's really it for now guys. I'm gonna get started. I ask, as always, that you give the video a like and that you subscribe. I'm always working on Acuras, Hondas, showing you how to do stuff. For this car, it's actually a little complicated. There are a couple connectors back there, but we'll get to that when we... Nice little Subaru speeding by. Again, there are a couple connectors in the back of the shade that make this install a little complicated, but I'll cover that in the video. And then he does want to put in an amp later on, so he asked me to hook these up so later he could run all the wiring for an amp. So all right guys, I'm gonna get started with that. I'll bring you guys in with the GoPro to show you the dismantle, and then I'll bring you in with the wiring closer so we can talk about it and see what we're gonna do. Oh, you know what, let me show you what we're actually gonna be putting in this car. So this radio is something I'm really excited about. This radio is low cost. You can find it usually for around $200, and you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and Bluetooth, which are the big 3 features, you know, in our time. 7-inch touchscreen, has these buttons on the side that aren't the best, but I mean, you can deal with it, and it's a solid radio. It has the needed RCAs to do any install with an Acura, or, you know, very flexible. It has 6 RCAs. It's a good little radio. Jensen makes it. You know, they're not the most reputable brand when it comes to electronics. They make good stuff, but they also make some cheap stuff. But I can say this unit is pretty good. We've put it in 2 Acura TLs, and both people have reported good feedback. The only issue they've had is that the time doesn't always stay current for some reason. I guess the internal clock, or the internal battery for the clock, doesn't always work how it's supposed to. But that's really the only issue. They've loved everything else. We've put backup cameras with it. It works no problem. But I'll show you the receiver a little later. I'm gonna get started with the install, and then I'll show you guys everything, you know, as it comes into play. All right, guys, with trim, it's always a little finicky because you don't want to break any pieces, of course. So to get this radio out, it's actually this trim panel, and then there are 4 bolts. So getting the radio out shouldn't be too hard. It's just not breaking any of these panels. For that panel, you're gonna have to open the door and pry it out from that corner. I'll show you that in a little bit. From this one, it's just wherever you can kind of lift it. I would say start here. And when it comes to removing panel, guys, you always want to have different tools. So I always carry a couple of tools, but something that has saved me, and I will mention, is this iFixit kit. They have these little really hard plastic tools that just make popping things a little easier, because, like, especially this green one. Let me show it to you. So this little green one actually has little hooks, and it's perfect to get something started like this. So you see, like, that got right in there, no problem. Now I can come in with my other tool that is a little thicker, and now I can fit it. And see, that made getting this panel started a lot easier. So it's always good to have those little tools. This is from iFixit, but you could find them anywhere. But it's just a good little tip, because that'll help you get things started and you don't have to struggle. But all right, guys, I'm gonna get this panel off. So here, guys, we want to just pop here. Ah, it's gonna be tough. Okay. So again, guys, always, if you're pulling on something and it's not coming out, always look for that screw. I thought, you know, maybe this panel, usually these pop always right off, so I'm like, maybe that panel is holding on to something, so I decided to take it off. There's actually a screw here. Let me grab a screwdriver and take that off. All right, guys, after getting that screw off, you're just gonna pull. It'll start coming out. And now you don't want to continue to leverage this. You're going to end up snapping it over there. So you do want to use your pry tool and start prying. Oh, that shouldn't have happened. But like I said, you just want to use your pry tool and start prying, because you don't want to use this as leverage to break the panel. So all right, guys, so we have these panels off. Now you'll see we have some screws we have to take out. I'll show you those in just a second. All right, guys, so here are our 4 bolts. One's back there, right there, on that side and that side. And these are actually Phillip head. I don't know if you can really see that. Let me see if I can zoom in for you. There you go. They're Phillip heads, or 8mm. So I'm actually going to use an 8mm deep socket to get them out. All right, guys, so now the last thing, we got those 4 bolts off. The last thing is this little piece right here. It should just come right off, and that's just a support on the bottom. You don't really see it. Again, 2 plastic clips. And then something I do want to show you is that this car does have a factory aux port. That's no longer going to function with the aftermarket radio. I think you can wire it so that it will, but my research, I didn't bother really researching into that yet, because the customer, when we talked about the install, was like, I don't care about factory aux, I want to use Bluetooth. That's what I'm looking for. So again, factory hands-free link or factory Bluetooth calling is not going to work. The steering wheel controls, these will work, these won't work. He knows that. I just wanted to cover that with you guys. I'm not sure exactly how the navigation is going to react. Told him it wouldn't be working. He said he's fine with that. He doesn't use it. And then hands-free. Oh, the center channel speaker that's up here he will lose. It's that 3-inch speaker, and that's a standard because all Acuras in this year range, probably from like 2004 to about 2009 or 2008, come with that, where there we go, come with that where it's a 6-channel amp, and then it has, you know, the subwoofers back there and a center channel, but you lose the center channel whenever you change out the radio. That's just standard, because 6-channel amps are usually for all 6 speakers, and then you get an amp for your subwoofer. You can make it work, but again, 5-channel amp if you're going to replace the amp in here. But when we do replace the radio, you're losing that factory center speaker. You're losing these steering wheel controls down here, which are your HFL controls. You are going to lose your factory navigation. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I'll show it to you guys in a little bit. And then obviously this is going to look different. This whole piece is getting replaced. But again, we'll get into that next. I just wanted to give you guys an overview of what's to come. All right, guys, so you're going to lift up and out, and then you have some connections back here. So you have the climate control connections that I got out. It's 2 plugs, and then you have all your radio connections. I don't know if you can see. There you go. So just start with, there you go. There you go. It's factory accept. There you go. And then antenna. Antenna's always hard. Oh, come on. That's what she said. Huh. Alright, guys, let's talk about some of these plugs. I think anything was hooked up here then. Alright, guys, so power, your speaker interface, your CAN bus for this car, which is usually the GA-Net Plus XM antenna. Not sure what this is for, but we'll dig more into it. I'll show you the wiring harnesses now. Alright, guys, so we have a mess of wiring harnesses here. I'll put all the correct ones in the video, but you will always need a Metra 40 HD10. And then this guy for your power. This is a RAP HO7802. You can, once this video is posted, all this stuff will be available on our site, kind of how we sell it as a DIY kit, as a combo with just the harnesses, and then as a plug and play harness as usual. Right now, this is kind of our prototype slash first install for this car, so we want to figure out everything that is going to go into it, and then we'll do, you know, what we do and put all the harnesses together the way they're supposed to go, because a lot of this is going to need repinning. So like, even if you bought these, you'd still need a bunch of work to do, and we do all the work for you. So what you buy is just, you know, wiring. You don't have to depin and pin and get stressed out about what goes where. But alright, guys, I'm going to start hooking these up, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alright, guys, so I kind of want to walk you through the process of how to kind of figure out what you're gonna do with the harnesses that you buy if you know, buy this mess that we did and not the ones on our website. So first things first, it's just matching where there are wires. So you can see this plug only has about 5 wires. White and black are usually factory ground and, you know, solid, and then that blue wire turns out to be your switch. So I unpinned everything else in this harness that isn't those 3 wires. There's 2 wires in the middle there that aren't pinned in our harness. So I'm not sure exactly what those are, but I'll worry about that later. Now it's to do the same for this harness, is to pin up the wires that you know, are here at least. Alright, guys, so here's a power plug for the Jensen. I took out all the speaker wires. Again, this is an Acura, it has an amp, so we're not going to use the speaker wires, we're going to use the RCAs. And here I just wanted to show you what else is here. Here's your steering wheel control input. So you are going to need a ASWC1 for this, so you can keep your steering wheel controls working. And then you have reverse trigger, so you can activate backup camera, speed sensor, and then you have an amp turn on, and then antenna turn on, and then illumination and all the standard stuff. But this is a power plug, and then it has, so the Jensen comes with 2 plugs, your power plug we just talked about, and then here's the plug for all your video or audio outputs and inputs. So the front left, from right, rear left, and subwoofer are all here. Both your subwoofers are blue, and the other ones follow the standard colors, you know, red and white. But both of these plug into the back of the radio, and we're using both for our install. All right, guys, so here's what we ended up with. All the harnesses you're gonna need for this install. Here's the antenna, power and signal, your your steering wheel control harness for the ASC W1. Here's the harness we had to make. So here are your steering wheel control negative and positive, your amp turn on, and then all your speaker wires. So we have the 5 speakers and then the sub. Here's the just basically switched power for the radio, but you need this as well. And then this is the actual power plug that came with the radio. So I'm gonna wire this all together, solder it all together, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done.
How do you stop recording?
Just hit the movie button. Oh, alright guys, so here's our finished harness. We have those 3 adapters. Here's the connector for the actual radio, and here's the connector for the ASWC1, and here's the ASWC1, and then the RCA. So I'm going to plug everything in, hook everything up to this harness as well, and then we'll go test it in the car.
See?
Different day. We had to get an amp for this car, so here it is. Here are the 2 amps we got. One of these is the bad one of these is the good one. To be honest, I don't know which one's which right now. I'm gonna have to go in the car and test it. But I bought another amp. I had bought another amp for this car already, but if you have navigation, your amp is actually different. Thanks, Truck. So yeah, guys, I had originally bought another amp for this car. But if you have navigation in your MDX, your amp is different. So this plug actually turns out to be different because it needs more inputs. Let me actually show you that. So this plug here is different. So the one I bought off eBay didn't work. I had to find one at a junkyard locally, so I'm not sure how well it's gonna work, but let's hope so. But I just want to say that don't forget, just because you're getting bad sound, it could be the radio, it could be the amp. The amp's pretty easy to change out. You can get one on eBay. You can find them at the junkyards. You don't have to go with an aftermarket amp right away unless you really want to. And this is cheaper. These amps are usually 50, 60 bucks. If you buy a new 5-channel amp for your car, you're gonna run like 200, 250 for a decent quality one. So it's always the cheaper option. But yeah, here we go. To get to the amp, it's up under here. So you're actually gonna need to take this panel off and then come in here, drop the glove box. It has little tabs, so all you have to do is push in on each side, and then the amp's gonna be mounted over there. You have 3 bolts. You only have to take out the actual bottom one. The top ones they hook on, so you don't have to take it off. But all right, guys, I'm gonna test this. Once I figure out which is good, I will show you guys. What's up, YouTube? I'm back with the MDX. This is my 2nd week with this car now. This car has been kicking my ass. Thank God the customer's patient. As you can see, it's a mess in here. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the MDX, and hopefully you don't run into this problem. So 2008 MDX, this has navigation but no rear entertainment. So with the navigation, you get those rear satellite speakers, they're called. You can see them over there. Hold on, let's see if I can zoom in for you. Basically, what is going on, my issue I'm having, is that the navigation system / amplifier is not playing to these rear speakers. So the factory system will not play to these rear speakers. I have been troubleshooting. You can see I have that door panel off. I have been troubleshooting. I sent a direct line from the amplifier to the speaker and it plays. So it's some setting in the radio. I can't figure out what setting it is. The customer doesn't want to keep the factory radio, so it really doesn't matter. But the factory radio on these navigation units uses this beautiful RS485 communication bus. Let me see if I can show you that. On certain pins, and that tells the radio how to balance the audio, where you want the audio to come from, etc. So once you put an aftermarket radio in, you don't have that. So if you don't have navigation, this is rather simple. You just need a harness that no one really sells, but you can make yourself. You can find it on our store, or and that's really it. Then it just works. But when you have navigation and when you have rear entertainment, this one doesn't, but when you do, this is a little trickier. So I'm actually going to do a little trickery here. I'm going to, all right, so there's two things you can do. You can bypass this, but if you bypass this, there's a total of 8 speakers in this car, 9 speakers. So a total of 8 speakers. You bypass this amp, you're not gonna get those 8 speakers anymore. You're gonna get 4, maybe 5 if you do it correctly. But if you're running aftermarket amp, I mean, there's so many possibilities here, but we're trying to keep the customer with his stock amp, not a possibility when you have navigation, unless maybe you guys know something I don't know. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be swapping a navigation amp with a non-navigation amp. You can see this from 2008 MDX. This came off of eBay. And the main difference is your outputs are the same, but your input is different. So your input on here has a couple more pins. This is a 28 compared to a 20 on here. So what we have for this is this guy. Again, you can find this yourself. We do sell this on our store, but you can find it on Mouser with these. This is our prototype. Our refined sale one is going to be much nicer, but here's that. And then, sorry about the shady camera work. Here's this guy. So ultimately now we just have to run some wires from there to here, and the pins we're going to be removing are all these RS connections. So there's 4 of those. These navigation information, like your navigation guidance, and then your satellite speakers are going to be gone. So those rear satellite speakers are 4 ohms, so we have to figure out a way to maintain them, because here you only get your front, your rears, your center, and your sub. So I'm going to see if I can loop them in. The only thing is that the speakers are 4 ohms, the rear door speakers are 2 ohms, so it's going to be a weird load onto this amp, but I'm sure we can figure it out. It's just going to take some testing. But first I'm going to create this little conversion harness, get that working, make sure it all works how I expect it to, and then I'll worry about those rear speakers. But I just wanted to fill you in, guys. A lot of people have requested videos on this MDX, and again, our harness will be in our store, plug and play for your radio, along with the DIY combo. For this amp conversion harness, you can make it yourself, or you can find it in our store. But this is not as simple. Well, you're gonna need another amp too, so this isn't as simple as some of the TLs or other vehicles. This is pretty involved, and if you have navigation, it's really a step up. So just when you go to a shop, or if you're going to tackle this yourself, make sure you do your research. This video is going to be a ton of help, but there is some stuff that I might not have filmed, might have forgotten, so feel free to ask a question down below in the comments. And yes, your factory backup camera will still work with this. Just wanted to let you guys know. I almost forgot to mention that. Alright guys, here it is. Steering wheel controls work. Can change songs. We have Android Auto working. Mode works, so I could switch, you know. The radio works. Everything's working as it should. Again, we went with the bypass for this car. Obviously, the factory navigation isn't working. You can see the climate controls are. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And again guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We're going to do a follow-up to this video. Check our store for anything MDX related. And thanks for watching.